Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Atari ST A to Z, a series of short playthroughs of Atari ST games, some which I grew up with and some which are new to me. Today's game is Knights of the Sky by MicroProse. This is a World War I flight simulator. So this was first released in 1990 for MS-DOS IBM compatible PCs, and then a year later for Atari ST and Amiga. It was originally developed under the working title of Red Baron, but before MicroProse could actually announce it under that name, Dynamics then went and snatched the name out from under their nose for their own game called Red Baron, which is a bit more well known than this today. So it was very well received back in the day. There are a few criticisms of the original PC version with things like plane damage and that sort of thing, but those were subsequently patched, and then all those patches were then incorporated into the Atari ST and Amiga versions, so the advantage of those coming out a little bit later. It's still pretty fondly regarded today as well. Not quite as well as Dynamics' classic, but like that, you can actually still get hold of this today. I believe it's on Steam. If I remember correctly, a company called Tomo got the rights to this game and possibly some other MicroProse stuff. But yeah, you can certainly still get hold of the PC version of this game today. It was widely praised back at the time for its low-speed aircraft, which was quite unusual for the time because most of the flight simulators of the period were of jet fighters. So things like the Cold War and stuff were very topical at the time. So people were interested in simulations of jets that they might see on the news or that they might hear about. And so that was a natural thing for flight simulator producers to do. But this was going back to World War I, which provided a very different feel. And the very different sense you get with dogfighting in World War I planes was widely praised as well. So before we jump into playing, let's have a look at the packaging. So here we are, there's the box art on the front. You probably can't see that on the camera at the minute, but down in the corner here we've got the technical specifications, and this is one of a few games I own that actually requires a 1040 ST or STE. So that means it requires a megabyte of RAM rather than the usual 512K that most ST games will run in. And so this was a relatively late release on the ST, so it's understandable that a few more people would have either upgraded their machine or got one of the newer models with more memory by that point. Like most MicroProse games, we've got this lovely sort of slipcase on the outside, a bit of box art on the back that promises lots of things. So fly 20 planes, every major fighter in World War I, navigate with actual mapping of trenches, roads, cities, aerodromes, anti-aircraft guns and many other features, accomplish hundreds of missions in 7 categories, view the action from 13 dazzling 3D perspectives, and challenge a friend via modem or direct cable, but only on the Amiga and PC version for some reason. I don't know why that wasn't included in the ST version, but it's not. But, well, no great loss. Like most of the other MicroProse games, it comes in this lovely sort of classy black box inside that slipcase. And inside there, we've got a bunch of goodies as usual. So, let's see exactly what we have got. So first of all, on top, we've got a large poster-style map of the Flanders front, which is where the game takes place. So that's where the real-life navigation stuff comes in, is based on reality. We've got a key control summary card specifically for the Atari ST because there would have been some slight variations in key controls between the different platforms. I seem to have 2 backup copies of the game here. I remember my dad was very big on making backup copies of games at the time, particularly ones that wrote to the disk for your save games at the time. A lot of MicroProse games, you didn't have a separate disk for your pilot roster and stuff like that. You actually save stuff directly onto the disk. So obviously if anything goes wrong with the original disk during that write process, then you're screwed. So yeah, making a backup was a good idea, as this was the days before hard drives, so you didn't install these, you just played them off the floppy disks. We've got a technical supplement there, again, specifically for the Atari ST. It's actually quite interesting, the page on the back here that's got a section enhancements specifically for the Atari ST version. So it says, the Atari ST version of Knights of the Sky includes many new and improved features which we believe enhance the game. Unfortunately, the original manual does not contain details of all the changes. They're all listed below with page numbers referring you to the appropriate section of the manual. So it says that so the Atari ST version allows you to fly the planes using joystick, keyboard or mouse, and you can switch controllers during flight, and there's no need to calibrate the joystick. So at the time, well, still, in fact, PC joysticks tended to be analog controllers, whereas the Atari compatible joysticks that you would have used on the Atari ST with the 9-pin connectors, those were all digital, so you didn't need to calibrate those. There was also a sensitivity control to make up for that, because you couldn't move a digital stick proportionally. There was a sensitivity control added for this. On page 15 of the manual, operating instructions are given for IBM PC compatible computers. You should ignore these as you cannot set up options for graphics and sound before loading Knights of the Sky on your Atari ST. So, yeah, so that's stuff specifically for the ST version. We've then got a couple of handwritten sheets here that look like they're done in my dad's handwriting, I think. And we've got one here that's got all the logos for various squadrons and things, which I think is the copy protection from the manual. I think he just did that as like a quick reference guide, so you didn't have to actually look stuff up in the manual. And then he's copied out the key controls for some reason. I don't really know why, but there you go. Then we've got the original discs here. Two lovely black discs there, which are write protected, so we can't mess them up, in theory. And then we've got the usual MicroProse big glossy manual, which is bright yellow this time rather than fingerprinty black. Now, like most MicroProse manuals, this has got lots of different sections in it, including how to play the game itself. But towards the back, we've got a section on history, a section on the history of war in the air from 1914 to 1918. So we've got a bit about the development of various planes and squadrons and fighter aircraft and that sort of thing. And then we move on, we've got a bit more technical information about the planes themselves and the weapons they used. And then at the very back, we've got this section called Designer's Notes, which has got some thoughts and feelings from the producers of the game. Specifically Jeffrey Briggs, who was, the main designer of the game. So I'm not going to read all of this because there's like 6 pages of it, but I think the first page is actually worth a look because there's some interesting stuff here that you might not have considered. So, first page starts, do we have the technology? For a long time, the people at MPS Labs had kicked around the idea of doing a World War I flight simulator. It seemed like a natural something, but there were a couple of problems: topic appeal and technology. The general consensus was that most people like to fly jets. Well, we've done a lot of jet games and found that to be true. A whole lot of people do like flying jets, but why wouldn't they also like flying biplanes? Well, that's where the technology issue came in. We thought a lot of folks would like biplanes if the planes could look good. Biplanes are very complex objects, not like sleek jets with smooth polygonal surfaces. Biplanes are angular contraptions with wheels sticking out the bottom and stacked wings. It takes lots of very complex, efficient 3D code to render good-looking biplanes spinning and zooming around the screen. To make matters worse, dogfighting in those days was a personal affair. You couldn't coldly fire a missile from miles away and watch a tiny jet-shaped object turn to a ball of flames. No, you had to get up close to the enemy, follow him for a long time, line him up and shoot him down with your guns. This means that not only does the program have to draw these real complex objects, but it has to draw them big and keep doing it for a long time. This is hard, especially if you're interested in having the whole thing look good and run fast. Fortunately, MicroProse has been in the 3D graphics biz as long as anyone, and we have guys who can do these things. After seeing what Scott Spenberg and Andy Hollis did with M1 Tank Platoon and F-15-2, we were sure we had the technology to pull it off. And that's quite interesting to read from a modern perspective, because we don't really consider the fact that there are some things that are too complex to model, because today's graphics hardware is pretty much up to the task of rendering almost anything, even complex things like liquids and that sort of thing. But back in the day, something as complex as a biplane with all its struts and its wheels poking out the bottom and its multiple wings and its insignia on the wings and that sort of thing, that was a complex thing to model, and a complex thing to model and get running efficiently as well. But if you'll remember from when we had a look at F-15 Strike Eagle 2, MicroProse was very good at getting 3D engines running very efficiently on the Atari ST at this point. So would that be good enough to get a convincing World War I simulation though? Let's go take a look. Okay, here we are with Knights of the Sky from MicroProse, beginning with an animated intro sequence that became something that MicroProse did quite a bit in a lot of their later titles. This one was kind of cool because it sort of simulated the old old film footage, complete with the grain and dodgy frame rates and so on, coupled with a bit of nice ragtime music in the background. I think my favourite MicroProse intro is probably Dogfight. I don't think that came out on ST, but it had a great intro on the PC version that was sort of showing the different aircraft from all different eras of history fighting against one another, so starting with World War I planes like we've got in this and moving on to jet fighters of various descriptions. And we can probably skip this. I think this is just going to be credits at this point. So let's just skip onwards and see what happens next. Now, this is one of the few games that wasn't in the automation collection of Atari ST games on their menu disc, so I don't know if I'm going to have to actually do copy protection in this, but we'll see. Okay, so we have several different ways to play this game. You can play a campaign, which takes you through a series of missions and simulates the latter half of World War One. We've got a flight training section that just lets you fly the planes without having to worry too much about what's going on. We've got dogfight encounters, which put you up against the various aces from the era, and you can exit the game. Let's have a look at the World War One option. Okay, so here we have our roster of people. So these are all sort of predefined on the disc, and you can see that the status of all of them is retired. So I believe you have to replace one of these. So choose a pilot, then press selector. Escape will erase a pilot. So let's get rid of Crazy Horse here. We press escape. We start at the rank of corporal. Corporal Pete Davison. There we go. And I am British. And we'll just play at level 1 for now, because I haven't played this game for about 30 years. So okay, so that then creates our new player, and that will save our progress onto the game's floppy disk as well. So this is why my dad made backup copies of it, because as you play this game, it sort of writes to the disk quite extensively, and so you don't want that to mess up your disk if your drive decides to fail or whatever. So, okay, the date is May the 1st, 1916. We have no kills, we are in active status, we've done no missions, and we are a corporal. So, let's begin. Now, I got my key reference guide handy here. There we go. So what is this? Oh, this is like a leaderboard of the aces at the minute. So at the top, there is Max Immelmann of Immelmann Turn fame. And, yeah, that's it. So, if we accept pilot. A lot of loading in this game. Here we are. So, press spacebar to turn information screens off. Press S to save roster to disk. So, at this point, we can fly a mission. We can visit the hangar. We can view the rankings, or we can look at our portfolio. Let's look at our portfolio. So, our portfolio tells us information about these various aces that there are available to battle against over the course of the campaign. So they come from both the Allied forces and the evil Germans. So Germans. So that's what's in there. So obviously your long-term aim in this game is to try and become ace of aces, which is the top of that table we've seen before. Alright, let's fly a mission. Okay, decoding mission orders. So this is like a sort of dynamic campaign in this game, if I remember correctly. So it sort of adapts according to what you do in various points. So a Hun observation balloon close to Lille is making regular ascensions and calling heavy artillery fire on our boys near Armentières. It's safest to follow a path over Neuve-Chapelle to get to the target. You must suppress this menace. Sounds good enough to me. Yeah, you can choose to decline that mission and get another one if you want, but let's just go straight for this one. And here we are on the ground, ready to go. So, what are our controls? Shift and plus gives us maximum throttle. Turn your engine on. Okay, what is the key for turn the engine on? Oh, obviously. Oh, there we go. Right. Maximum throttle. There we go, the nose comes down. Our speed increases. And we can lift off. Right, so from this point on, it's up to us to figure out what we need to do, really. So we're attempting to track down that balloon. So presumably there's a map function. Hopefully there's a map function. Spacebar, look at map. Okay, so from here you can see where you are and where you're aiming. So this, obviously you're flying a biplane, so you don't have any fancy navigational systems or anything. So you just have to figure things out for yourself and go by the landmarks and the roads and so on. So we can see from this map that we need to head in a vaguely sort of just slightly north of east direction. So if we turn a little bit to the side, keep an eye on our compass in the middle. There we are, east northeast should do it. And head in this direction. We should eventually get where we're going. I find this quite an interesting game because the handling of it is so completely different to MicroProse's later jet fighter sims. Like the whole plane feels a lot more rickety. So it's a lot slower to respond to things. It's a lot slower to sort of... When you just make a slight tweak on the controls like that, you'll notice that it keeps moving after a moment. So I'm just tapping back on the stick there, and it keeps moving for a little while afterwards. So you have to really sort of almost fight to keep this under control. Which is quite a fun thing to have to do in this kind of game. We're drifting a little bit far off course. And then, of course, you have all your instruments down there to rely on as well. So again, no sort of digital targeting or anything like that. You just got to figure things out for yourself. Now, that looks like that might be a balloon up in the sky over there. Let's just check our map again and see if that's our actual target. I think it might be, actually. Or is it? The balloon's off to the east, isn't it, from where we are now? So we need to head back. I think it is that, you know. Well, I'm going to go ahead... Oh, something is shooting at us, I think. I'm going to go ahead and assume that is our target, so we'll head for it. And we just need to pay attention to things along the way and make sure that we don't get hit by anything. Yeah, something is definitely shooting at us now. So we're just going to need to be very careful. Oh, and this plane is really hard to handle. But we are getting closer to where we need to be. So, oh, that's who's shooting at us. Take him down! I got the balloon. I've got a Hun to kill. Was it a Hun in World War One? I don't know. I can never remember. Lead your shots. I think he's a bit far away to hit with our guns at the minute. Yeah, the cool thing about this game compared to some of the later... Oh, there we go. Good shot. He's going down. Very nice indeed. So at that point, you can actually have a replay of your kill if you want. And then, presumably, you can use the various views to... Yeah, you can see a kill from various angles there. So there's a good example of the additional graphical detail on there over and above what we had in other MicroProse games at the time. How do we get back to cockpit view? Press 1. That's it. I don't want to have the same situation I had in F-15 Strike Eagle where I couldn't remember how to actually get back to the cockpit. Alright, now where's our target gone after all that? I think there's someone else shooting at us as well, so... There he is. Pepper it with some bullets. Another enemy balloon destroyed. Very nice indeed. I think you can turn that replay behavior off if it gets annoying. But because actually getting a kill in one of these planes is quite an achievement. It's quite cool to be able to relive your various kills. Just going to check the map again. Oh, that wasn't our target. That just happened to be a balloon that was over the place. So we need to keep heading in an easterly direction. So let's swing round this way. Yeah, like I was saying, sort of the cool thing about this game compared to the later jet fighter simulations is the extra level of detail there is on the ground. If you look down there's a lot more stuff going on in terms of roadways and towns and all that sort of thing. And that's to complement the fact that these planes don't go very fast. And so, as you're flying along, you need more landmarks to get an idea of where you are. You don't have the map to rely on, so you need to do some visual navigation. And all that kind of thing. And we have some actual clouds as well. So at this point, early 90s, flight simulators were really starting to come into their own. It was the kind of VGA PC era where they really hit their stride. But this sort of late 16-bit era with MicroProse, they were really getting on well with modelling flight and convincing 3D scenery and that sort of thing. So, oh, I think that might be our target just there. Can we hit it from here? But notice it even does things like sort of modelling the fall off of the shells. So like you can aim at those sites there and they will gradually drop. We're a bit far away still, aren't we? Coming from above seems like a good idea, though. Die, you dirty balloon. There we go. Was that one actually our target? Possibly? I feel like we're definitely being shot at. Let's head back to the west. So presumably just what we need to do now is go and land. Yeah, there is also an auto landing option in this if you want to as well. So, so we are. So if you press Alt and R, you can toggle the auto replay on and off. There we go. That turns them off. So if you do find those irritating, you can get rid of those, no problem. You can also toggle town names on map. So if they're getting in the way a bit, you can press Alt-T to turn them off and just see the scenery. Oh, it looks like we still haven't got our target, I guess. Presumably it will tell us where we've accomplished our mission objective. Hopefully that is not too much to ask from this game. Since it came out well after stuff like... I'm trying to fly this like a jet fighter. It really doesn't work. As it came out well after... stuff like F-15 and so on, and F-15 would tell you when you'd accomplished your mission objective and so on. So, alright. Let us continue in this direction. Staying nice and high above the clouds so we don't get shot down. We do seem to be right above where we're supposed to be. So there's some stuff going on down there. Trouble is, from height, it's quite difficult to determine what is actually what. You have to sort of learn to recognise what all these different things you see on the ground are. I think we might have taken down our target already, you know. So I feel like we probably want to head back to our base, I imagine. Let's have a bit of fun down here, though. Let's see if we can strafe something on the ground. We're getting closer to the ground now so we can see the trees. No? Okay. What's that there? Oh, it's so hard to control this plane. I'm so used to flying jet fighters with their sort of lightning response to things. Really eye-opening experience trying to pilot this thing. Your machine gun jammed? Oh no! What do I press for that? Unjam gun, you. Gun still jammed. Jam cleared, there we go. Ow. Bullet causes minor damage. I think it's probably time to get out of here. I'm going to go ahead and assume that we've actually accomplished our objective. So let's just head back to the west and back to base. Sorry if you keep seeing that graphical glitch. I'm not entirely sure what's causing that, but yeah, apologies if that is hampering your enjoyment of this. How far have we got to go back? Oh, we're way off course. So we want to head kind of southwest. Yeah, that should do it. So yeah, unlike a lot of flight sims at the time, this game actually also has rudder control as well, which you do with the keyboard. So you can make sort of more precise course adjustments using that. Because obviously these planes aren't really built for doing tight 90-degree turns like an F-15 is. Yeah, I remember really liking this game as a kid. I can't remember sort of exactly what it was that drew me to this sci-fi, because I can't say I was ever a particular World War I enthusiast or anything like that, but I think just the fact that this offered something a little bit different from most of the other flight sims at the time. It was just one of those games that gave you an interesting experience. There wasn't anything quite like what I'd experienced in gaming before, so... Okay, so we want to head back a little bit more west now. I like the kind of atmosphere text in this with the bullets whistling past your head and causing minor damage, and that's... Oh, hello. Cheeky fucker. Another one! Get out of here! This is the easiest difficulty level, remember? And so I think it's being pretty forgiving in terms of how much damage we can take and how intelligent the pilots are. Not sure what that noise was. Didn't sound too good. Or maybe it was them crashing. I don't know. We're getting hit by some winds here, actually. Still not actually sure if we succeeded in taking down our target, because there is still a big T on the map, but I didn't see any other balloons around there, so I can only assume that we have actually done what we were supposed to. I guess we'll find out when we land. If we get shouted at, then we didn't do it correctly. I see things shooting at us. Oh! Bullets whistle all around you. Is that our airstrip there? I think it might be. Yeah. So I'm just going to use the auto landing for now, just so we can see how it's done. No airfield below. Okay. Oh, there we go. You've got to be right above it before the auto landing will actually kick in. So let's see how you land a Sopwith Camel, I think this is. Auto landing does disengage itself if you get hit by a bullet from the look of things. Okay, we might have to do this ourselves from the look of things. Well, there's our airfield. So let's reduce the power a little bit. And I think you just have to sort of try and land on the orange bit. Oops. That's the wrong button. Oh! Joystick! That was nearly a terrible mistake. So, like in a lot of other MicroProse games, you have these various views that will allow you to sort of focus on your aircraft in relationship to other things around the place. You've got that bombing view, which is there to help you with those missions where you actually have to drop bombs on things instead of just shooting them with your guns. And various different angles from which you can examine your plane and see what's going on. Okay. Are you just flying very low, or have you actually landed on the ground? This is still the auto landing mode doing this. I don't think it's handed control back to me. Yeah, it's just hovering just above the ground. That's great. And then it's just gonna pop it down when it gets over the airbase. Evidently, that is how you land a biplane, ladies and gentlemen. Gonna pop it down for me? There we go. This seems to have the same ridiculously heavy landings that F-15-2 does. Okay, so when you land, you get refueled and rearmed. Evidently, we haven't completed our mission because, well, the mission hasn't ended. But I think we'll hold that there for today. Just because, yeah, gives you a good idea of how this all works. So that is Knights of the Sky by MicroProse. A game that I'm probably going to have another look at because I rather enjoyed my time with it there. So, let's leave it there for now, though. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please help out the channel by leaving a like or a comment and subscribing. New episodes of Atari A to Z are on Tuesdays and Atari ST A to Z on Thursdays. Check out atariatoz.wordpress.com for a full archive. Do please also check out my other projects moegamer.net, where I explore Japanese and Japanese-inspired games from yesterday and today, and videopackgames.wordpress.com, which aims to catalogue the small but well-formed library of the Philips G7000 Videopack computer, also known as the Magnavox Odyssey 2. You can also support my work on Patreon or buy me a coffee. You can find links to do both down in the video description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.